Fareed Zakaria did some commentary on the Trump administration, and he did something that I think is really interesting and important to highlight. So let's listen to him here, and then we'll discuss.
When running against Donald Trump, Jeb Bush made a prediction about his highly unusual Republican rival. He said Trump was a chaos candidate and that he would become a chaos president. Bush fared badly in the primaries, but that prediction is proving remarkably accurate. In this last week, Donald Trump has thrown grenades into the American healthcare system and the Iranian nuclear deal, exploding the existing frameworks, but with no clear replacement or strategy or solution. In the first months of Trump's presidency, what was most striking was the lack of any actual accomplishments. Various lists have been compiled of the things Trump promised to do on day one of his administration. Label China a currency manipulator, start repealing Obamacare, begin building the wall. He kept only a handful of his promises. Mostly he was talk and not much action. The world noticed. Last month, among the many insults that Trump volleyed toward North Korea, he sent one China's way. On September 3rd, he tweeted that the U.S. was considering stopping all trade with any country doing business with North Korea. This was obviously a dig at China and a massive threat to the global economic system. Were America to stop trading with China, it would be a seismic event, almost certainly producing a global recession. In the past, the Chinese have responded angrily to any such threats from Washington, always zealous about articulating and defending their national interests. This time they responded by saying nothing. They didn't bother to reply. Beijing seems to have understood it's Donald Trump. Don't take it too seriously. Trump has now signaled to countries like North Korea, never make a deal with America, because even if we sign, we might still upend the whole arrangement anyway. In his speech on Iran, Trump made the bizarre claim that other countries think in 100-year intervals. Even if this were true, which it isn't, Trump's actions suggest that his administration cannot even stay the course for a few years, let alone 100. Donald Trump's national security team, the so-called grown-ups, have signed on to this contradictory policy toward Iran, which is a sad sign perhaps that they value their jobs more than their reputations. Republicans used to pride themselves in being the party that was serious about foreign policy, committed to conservative values like order, continuity, and credibility. Instead, they have now as their leader an impetuous, mercurial showman who scorns any such stability. The result is just what Jeb Bush predicted: chaos.
So, I think Fareed Zakaria is a smart dude, but I think he seriously misreads the situation here. Because this is what many astute commentators were worried about and warned about with the whole phenomenon of Trump. Rania Kalik mentioned this on Twitter. She said, probably the biggest problem with Trump is that he's now made it so that anything but Trump is defined as acceptable and reasonable even. That's not true. That's nowhere near true. Trump is horrendous, but so are many of the people that you're now bolstering to try to put down Trump. So he leads the segment by saying Jeb was right. Jeb was right? The fuck are you talking about? And then towards the end there, you heard him say again that Jeb was right. But the part that really annoys me the most is where he says Republicans were the, quote, party that was serious on foreign policy. The party that was serious on foreign policy. This is the problem, Fareed, is that's not the case, and that was never the case. But you're now saying that to disparage Trump. To say, well, before Trump, I mean, come on, everything was just going fine in the Republican Party, and they were serious. They were serious. Do you not remember George W. Bush invading a country that didn't attack us based on lies? Do you not remember that? Do you not remember the hundreds of thousands of deaths that resulted because of that? Do you not remember ISIS rising out of the ruins of Iraq? Do you not remember the war in Afghanistan and how that became, we're going to get Al-Qaeda, and then that became, no, let's actually just stay there and fight the Taliban too? Do you not remember any of this? They're serious on foreign policy. That's not true. Jeb just said during the campaign, oh yeah, no, with the war in Iraq, yeah, I probably would have done it too. and you're going to call Jeb right, and you're going to say Jeb is serious. Here's the reality, Fareed, and this is the problem with mainstream media, is oftentimes they fetishize tone. So it's how you say it, not what you're saying. It's how you say it. So in other words, Jeb Bush also said he wants to blow up the Iran deal. Virtually every Republican on stage said they want to blow up the Iran deal during the campaign. Jeb Bush and every other Republican on stage was in favor of a more hawkish policy against North Korea. And a more hawkish policy in general because they're Republicans and that's what they do. Because they're not serious on foreign policy. They're gunslingers. Hey, let's fight everywhere and everything, and let's pretend like we're doing it because we care about human rights as we bolster Saudi Arabia. So Trump comes along, and he does all the things the neocons want, all the things the Republican foreign policy establishment wants, but Fareed Zakaria does commentary about how Trump is an aberration, and he's the worst. But the Republican foreign policy is, quote, the Republican foreign policy establishment is serious, quote, serious on foreign policy. No, Fareed, Trump is Jeb Bush, but he's Jeb Bush plus mean tweets. Jeb would have blown up the Iran deal, or at least he said he wanted to. Jeb would have escalated with North Korea. At least he said he wanted to. So stop. Stop with this nonsense. The problem was the Republican elite. The Republican establishment is the problem. Not the average Joe voter, but the establishment. All those guys, Bill Kristol, Paul Wolfowitz, all the neocons, the deep state, Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, all those clowns on stage, they were all hawkish. But as those other guys started offensive wars and escalated tensions around the world and gave Saudi Arabia a big wet blowjob, as they did those things, they would have done it with a smile on their face and with some bullshit flowery rhetoric about how we care about human rights. Trump doesn't do that second part. Trump is just fucking flailing all over the place and tweeting threats on Twitter. And he's unstable. And let me be clear about something. This is not me excusing the actions of Trump. No. But my point is, you should be massively, massively against what Trump is doing because he is the neocon foreign policy establishment bitch boy. You should be massively against what Trump is doing, but you also don't need to bolster the credibility of the other heinous, cretinous Republicans in the process because they are heinous and they are cretinous. They just can mask it a little better than the guy we have in office now. But of course, Fareed Zakaria misses the ball completely, and he acts like, well, the other guys are, quote, serious on foreign policy, and Trump is the aberration who's terrible. No, the entire foreign policy establishment in the Republican Party, and almost the entire Democratic Party, they're the problem.